Hello and welcome back to this series on Streamlit and Python, kind of zero to hero. In the last video we talked a lot about kind of the introduction to Streamlit, some of the ways that you can make very basic apps with some really robust features really quickly, all in Streamlit and Python. I showed you some of the main ways to take in user input and manipulate that in a Python script to have an app that can do specific things with buttons, checklists, radio buttons, etc. In this video, we're going to be talking about two main things, and that is how to structure a layout in Streamlit and how to add images to your app. That's going to be our challenge for this video. Now, like in the last video, we're going to start with import Streamlit as st, and if you notice on the right, I already have opened up the app and have it running. If you don't remember how to do that, check out the last video. Essentially, you're going to open up your command prompt in this directory and just execute the command streamlit run and then your app name. In this case, the app name is 01_02_layout.py. That's our app name. So now that we have an app, let's go ahead and give this app a title. We're going to call this st.title. We're going to say lesson 01.02, and we're going to call this intro to layouts and images. That's going to be our title, and once we save that script, we see that we now have our title over here on the right hand screen. What we're going to be doing in this video is simply talking about how to make an app that is a little bit more robust and dynamic. As you can imagine, if we look at our last app that we ran in the last video, we had a lot of different features that were all kind of cascading down in a single column. That's not a very nice looking app. That's a little clunky and can be kind of difficult for users to navigate. For this reason, it's sometimes very useful to have the data and the functions all kind of in different columns or even in a sidebar. So what I'm going to show you in this video first is how to essentially get your components of your app into different places. There's a few different ways that we can do this in Streamlit. We're going to be going over all of them today, and that's going to be the sidebar function, and the columns. That's going to allow us to control the layout pretty dynamically. And then there's a third way that we can actually control the layout, and that's going to be with what we call the expander. The expander and the columns came out, and I believe it was Streamlit 0.64, so if you're watching this video, you should already have these features ready and handy. So let's go ahead and add in a sidebar first. Our sidebar is going to appear over here on the left-hand column side, and it's going to be a different color. It's going to allow our users to input the data that they want to see manipulated in the main part of the app. We're going to see what that looks like right now by doing st.sidebar, and we're going to call this, let's call this options. I'm going to call it options. That way the user can kind of input some options. And I have an error. The reason why I have this error is because I have not said anything about the sidebar. This is important. The sidebar functions the exact same way as the main app does. So you can't just say st.sidebar, you have to specify what you want to see populated in the sidebar. In this case, I'm going to have a header on that sidebar, and if I save it, you'll notice that now I have a sidebar automatically pop up on the left-hand side. Within this sidebar, you can keep on calling it, and it's going to allow for you to have all the same stuff that your main app can have. So you can have buttons, you can have checkboxes, you can have forms, which we're going to get to in I think the next video, and you can even have text written out. You can do everything that you can do over here. It's just going to populate in the sidebar. And every time that you need to write something in the sidebar, and keep in mind that it works sequentially, so the higher up in the code, the higher up it's going to appear. Each time you write something, it'll appear automatically in the sidebar so long as you have st.sidebar. So let's go ahead and maybe give the user in this sidebar the ability to input some textual data. And in this app, our goal is to create a very simple app that will take in text like this. In this case, it's Alice in Wonderland. And what it's going to do is it's going to take it in and it's going to clean up the data. It's going to remove the line breaks, and it's going to get rid of these bad what do you call them, quotation marks. We're going to try to standardize everything so that all the quotation marks are the exact same so that it can be more easily processed and more consistent so that we can do some text analysis on it. That's the goal of this app. Very simple app, that's all it's going to do. So let's go ahead and give the user the ability to input some textual data. So we're going to say st.sidebar.text area, and we're going to say paste text here. And we're going to save that. And again, that's going to now allow the user to input some textual data. But we need to create an object. So we're going to call this object our text. What that's going to allow us to do now when we run it is that when the user has some data here, it's going to allow us to use that data as an object, in this case a string, so that when they input something, we can say st.write, and you're going to notice that this will appear now in the main part of the app. So we can now say, hello, my name is William. Fantastic. We can hit Control Enter, and now that text appears over here. So that's going to be how we can use stuff from the sidebar to manipulate and do things in the main part of the app. That's not what we want though. So what we want to do is we want to have a button that can be executed so that when a button is executed, it will do something over here. So let's create a button now. We're going to call this button1. This is going to be st.sidebar because we want this button to be in the sidebar, .button, and we're going to have this be clean text. So this button will execute and allow us to do something in the main part of the app. And we now have our button here. It's just a dummy button because we haven't told it to do anything when it's actually clicked. So let's go ahead now and let's try to take that information from there and do something with it in the main body of the text over here. So we're going to say if button1, if that's run, then let's do st.write. Just for right now, we're going to change this in a second. We're going to do st.write text. So now let's rerun that. And now when I hit clean text, now only upon that condition right there being met will it actually now populate over there and show us the text. However, when we start working with data like this, we're going to have some problems. So let's copy and paste in the first, let's copy and paste just the first paragraph from this Alice in Wonderland here. So when I execute this, you now see some errors pop up. Why are these errors popping up? Not really errors, but weird syntax highlighting. Well, what's happening is if you notice and you look really closely, you'll notice that in this Alice in Wonderland text, this is a common problem in text analysis, we have some odd-looking characters to represent the quotation mark, at least at the start of a quotation mark. The end quotation mark is the standard single line down quotation mark. This one, however, is at an angle. So what we want to do is we want to have this app take in that original data and clean it up a little bit. It's going to remove the line breaks, and it's going to allow the user to kind of see the output both in its original state and in a cleaned state. So in order to do that, let's write a little simple function up here, and we're going to call this function, we're going to call it clean text. And it's going to take one argument. It's going to take the text that we want to have cleaned. And we're going to simply say, it's going to be a very simple function. It's going to say text is equal to text.replace. And we're going to replace that quotation mark, which is giving us that problem. And we're going to say, just replace it with nothing. And then we're going to also replace any instance of a dash and a line break with nothing, because that will be an instance where the word that ends on that line is going to continue on in the next line. And then we're going to have another thing where we end or remove all line breaks. We separate them out with just a simple space. And then finally, we're going to do dot strip so that there's no leading or trailing white spaces. And at the end of this, we're going to return text. Now what we're going to do when button 1 is triggered is we're going to say new text, or sorry, clean text is going to be equal, let's call this clean, is going to be equal to clean text, and we're going to pass in text. And what we can do is we can now say st.write clean. So it's going to now allow us to run this code, and it's going to give us, oh, looks like I have not spelt replace correctly. I'm sure some of you will already notice that if you're watching this video, and now when we rerun it, it should work just fine. I now have the original text up above, and I've got the cleaned text down below. However, from an app point of view, from an aesthetics point of view, this looks clunky. It doesn't look good. And the reason why it doesn't look good is because it's kind of separated out. Imagine if I didn't want to just do a single paragraph, rather I wanted to do something like 3 paragraphs. It's going to become more and more difficult to read these side by side, as you might already be imagining. So what can we do? Well, we can do some fun things to clean it up and make it look a little nicer with another feature of Streamlit. And these are called columns. This is another way of controlling the layout of your app. You can have as many columns as you like, and really you should stick to maybe 2 or 3. So let's go ahead and add some columns into our main body of the app. So we're going to say if button 1 is clicked, we're going to have column 1 and column 2, and that's going to be equal to st.beta columns, because this is, I think, still in beta as of the recording of this video, and this is going to take 1 argument, and this is going to be the number of columns that we want to have. Let's go ahead and just save that right now and hit rerun. Now when we run this, nothing's going to happen. And the reason why nothing is happening is because we haven't done anything to those columns. Those columns appear, but they aren't being populated. To populate them, let's go ahead and do some things. Let's say column 1 dot, let's call it, say, header. This is going to be the original text. And then we're going to say, instead of st.right, we're going to say column 1 dot right. And now, let me scroll down just a little bit so you can see this better. And now what we can do is we can say column 2 dot header. We're going to say cleaned text. And we can say column 2 dot right clean. Let's refresh and let's execute this now. What you can see here is a way in which we can kind of control the layout of our main app. Not only can we have a sidebar where the user can input data, but we can manipulate how that data is displayed in the output. And if you notice, our output now is a little bit, in my opinion, it looks nicer. It's easier to kind of see what's happening. These 2 texts are now side by side. If I wanted to copy and paste 3 paragraphs, let's go ahead and do that. We can now see all 3 paragraphs kind of side by side. We've eliminated the double line breaks so that the paragraphs aren't as easy to distinguish. We can do some things up here in our function to make that better. We can do a special character for double line breaks to maintain that. In fact, let's go ahead and do that just for fun so we can kind of learn something here. If I wanted to preserve in this output of the cleaned text the double line break, I can do a few tricks. There's a couple different ways to do it. Here's an easy one, though. Before I remove all line breaks, I'm going to have another thing that's going to replace a double line break, and I'm going to pick a sequence of characters that I know never appears anywhere in this entire thing, and, asterisk, asterisk, and. Now when I do this, let's see what happens. I've got this occurring. Why do I have that occurring? Why is that useful? Well, what I can do is I can use that weird occurrence of characters, and I can say now, dot replace, let's do this one more time, dot replace, and now I can eliminate instances of that with a double line break. It's a quick and easy way to kind of preserve a component that you want to have eliminated that occurs once, but preserve it when it happens twice. This is commonly done with line breaks. So let's me keep those kind of paragraph segmentations. You could do this with the more HTML-friendly p tag, the open and close of a p tag, but this works just fine. So that allows me to actually have that kind of on the page now. So what are some other things I can do? Well, you might be looking at this and saying, okay, this is great, but what if I copied and pasted in an entire text? Wouldn't that get really clunky? And the answer is yes. It would get very clunky in this app. This is where another really cool feature comes in that I think was released in around 0.65 or 0.64 or so, and that's another way of controlling the layout. And those of you who looked at my Carolingian Exegesis manuscripts app may have already seen this feature. It's an expander tab. So let's take a look at that real fast and see how that works. So with the expander tag, what I can do is I can say that I want to have kind of everything that's populating over here. I don't want to see it unless somebody opts to show it. So I don't want column 1 or column 2 to really be displayed unless the user specifically wants them to be displayed. So what I can do is I can wrap these in an expander tab. So we can say column 1 expander is going to be equal to, we're going to say st dot beta expander, and we can just call this a expand original. And yeah, so what we can do now is wrap that. So we can say with the column 1 expander, So when somebody opts to open it, it's going to allow us to see that original text. Let's run this again. Oh, there we are. So now, once we actually get the architecture correctly, let's kind of break down what happened there, because I made a couple mistakes in my code, and you saw me kind of quickly correct it. So what we have to do is we need to wrap everything inside of an expander. So our column 1 is the main think of it as the main layout feature. Now column 1 is kind of this ephemeral thing that exists in the layout that we don't see. Column 1 is going to contain within it a column1 underscore expander, which is this feature right here, that a user can expand or contract however they wish. The next thing that we have to do is we have to wrap some information within that expander. So let's go ahead and just get rid of that real fast so it's easier to kind of understand what's happening. We're going to rerun it. So what they're able to do is they're able to see if that is occurring. So with that clicked, it's going to show that. In other words, when you unclick it, it's going to go away. This is a way to kind of keep things a little cleaner in your app so that you might always want to have something actually being displayed. We can do the same thing with column 2 so that they can opt to have that opened or not. So let's go ahead and make column 2 expander. We're going to do this all again. We're going to say column 2 expander is equal to column 2 because we need to wrap it within that column 2 in the layout. And we're going to say column 2 dot beta expander. We're going to call this expand cleaned. And let's go ahead and get rid of that header because we really don't need that anymore. And we're going to say with column 2 expander, column 2 expander dot write cleaned. Let's rerun this app. And now we've got two columns. We can see the cleaned version and we can see the expanded version. So these are ways that you can kind of control how much information is being displayed at any given time for a user, so they can kind of go through and more intuitively explore the data that's being populated on the page. So that's a fun way to kind of just get your app having a better layout with these three different features: the sidebar, the columns, and the expanders. Let's go ahead and talk about one more feature that is very common for apps, and that is you oftentimes want to display your logo, or you want to display some other feature, maybe an image that needs to be populated onto the page. I'm going to have a whole video where I talk about how to take in input data that is images and show those images on the page. For right now, we're going to assume that the user is not inputting the data like an image that they want to have uploaded. Rather, you want the app just to display something right out of the box. So what we can say is, let's say we want to have the image appear up here in the top left of our sidebar. That's where we want to see it. So I'm going to put it before we start calling the header on the sidebar. So we're going to say st.sidebar, and we're going to say .image. And this is going to take one argument for right now. It's going to be the image that we want to see loaded. In this case, it's under logos / page.png. Actually, sorry, pydh. That's what I want to use, pydh.png. Let's rerun the app. And you'll notice that we have an error. What did I do wrong? pydh logos. Oh, and it's .jpg. JPG, there we are. And now it works just fine. You see this pydh logo now populated in the top left. We can do a couple cool things. We can control the height of it. We can control the width of it. So I can say width is equal to let's just make it, I think this goes by pixels. I could be wrong. But let's say we just want to make it width of just 100. Now you see it's a lot smaller. We can control a lot of the different features of the image as we want it to actually appear on the page. But this gives you a way to kind of just load an image real quickly that might be your logo or your kind of your brand, whatever it might be, or it could be the lab to which you belong or the university. This gives you a way to quickly kind of load in something that is unique to you, such as the logo, and do it quite quickly. This is going to be the standard way that you load images in Streamlit. You can do this in the sidebar and the expander. You can do this however you want to, but you're going to use .image. That's going to allow you to place an image onto the page. I hope that you've found this video useful. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you get a lot out of these videos, please do consider supporting it via Patreon. If there's something that you want to see, let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to make a video on it. In the next video, what we're going to be talking about are some more advanced features. We're going to be talking about how to really kind of structure an app better. One of the things that you're going to have a problem with is if you have a lot of different parameters that need to be parsed simultaneously, meaning not continuously rerunning the script. You need to have all the parameters hit run in and then a script being run. You're going to want to use what's called a form. I'm going to be talking about a form in the next video, which is going to allow you to make much more robust apps much more quickly. That's going to be it for this video though. Thank you for listening.